Welcome, everyone, to this briefing brought to you by the Israel Defense and Security Forum, IDSF. In Hebrew, our name is Bitronistim. IDSF is the leading Israeli organization advocating for strong national security to defend Israel. I want to thank all of our viewers who tuned in yesterday for our briefing that was a little bit different than usual, but very important. In addition to giving the 1,000 feet view of what is happening in this war, every now and then it's important to speak to the people, the families who are most affected, to really get a sense of what has happened over the course of this year. So thank you to everyone who tuned in yesterday, and thank you for all of your positive feedback on really hearing the story of Omer Smadja from yesterday. So I've been asking many people in Israel to comment on their thoughts on whether or not the Gazan people would leave Gaza if given the choice. Not if they were forcibly removed, but if the floodgates were opened, would they exit? And you heard me ask that question to General Avivi. I've asked many people. I've asked people from Gaza itself. Would your cousins, would your family leave if given the option? And today's briefing, I asked that question again to none other than Dr. Mordechai Kedar. Dr. Kedar is an expert on Arabic culture, very much understands the mentality, the thought process of the Arab community, the Arab world. And Dr. Kedar was not available for a live briefing today, and therefore I sat down with him a few hours ago, and I want to share our conversation with you. You know, the King of Jordan was recently in the White House. And how do you really make out that back and forth between President Trump and the King of Jordan? There's a lot of discussion about what Egypt will do. So how do we make sense of the Egyptian orientation to what is happening right now in Gaza? And therefore, I thought that Dr. Kedar could shed a lot of light on these questions. So bear with me for a moment while I pull up my discussion with Dr. Mordechai Kedar, very important member of IDSF here in Israel, and I will share that with you right now. As Hamas was releasing hostages and staging these very elaborate ceremonies and having the Gazan people come out and participate and view the return of the hostages, what does all of this mean for Gaza and for the Arab people? Are they viewing this as a victory ceremony? What was the point of all of that?
Well, it's all in the eyes of the beholder. There are people in Gaza who are very happy that Hamas are still in power, that Hamas are taking care of them, that Hamas actually survived because they identify with Hamas and they love Hamas and they want Hamas to win and they want Hamas, in the end of the day, also to destroy Israel altogether as the plan. Okay, there are people who are wholeheartedly with Hamas. However, there are many others who, not that they don't care, they want Hamas to go to hell after the hell which Hamas brought on them, and they understand exactly what happened. Of course, they don't like Israel because the way which Israel retaliated for October 7th, 2023, but they know who caused it. They know exactly who ignited this war and who is responsible for all the casualties and all the destruction which they are living in. So in Gaza, you can find people from that side, on the other side. And yeah, and the majority doesn't mean much because since Hamas are still the rulers of the place, because they don't care about the people. So this is the situation. And by the way, if somebody talks to the media against Hamas, his life will be shortened drastically.
Now, we know that President Trump has announced this plan where the U.S. will be more engaged in Gaza and remove the population of Gaza in order to redevelop. What all of that means remains to be seen. But when the president announces this and you hear the press corps ask questions, one of the repeating questions is, but the Gazan people do not want to leave Gaza. They want to remain in Gaza. They don't want to be forced out of their homes. So I'm curious to know what is your opinion on the matter? If the Gazan people were offered a lucrative economic incentive, would they leave their homes, or are they so hardened and ideological that they will never choose to leave Gaza on their own?
Moshe, believe me, if a ship which can carry 1 million people will come to the Gaza seashore and will remain 1 kilometer in the sea, the Gazans all will swim to this ship, even those who do not know how to swim. This is what will happen. I think that 99.99% of the people in Gaza are eager to leave. They will leave to anywhere in the world, in order to save themselves from the destruction, from the death, from, you know, it's not easy to talk about this, but many places in Gaza are stinking because of the dead people who are still under the destruction, under the destroyed buildings. To that degree, who wants to live in such a place? Who with the right mind want to? The only sliver of people who want to remain there are the Hamas people who want to continue to control the place. That's all. I'm telling you, this is the situation. If they are all given the opportunity to leave, even to Egypt or wherever, to run away from this hell named Gaza, and you never hear somebody who will say it, because if he said this, he will get shot in the head by Hamas. But this is the situation, no doubt.
And likewise, yesterday there was a press conference with the King of Jordan and President Trump, shared his plan to move the population around. And the president of the King of Jordan suggested that he would help take 2,000 children from Gaza who have health needs and bring them to Jordan. I'm wondering if you can comment on what you think about that, about Jordan's participation and the Hashemite the kingdom in Jordan, their orientation to what is happening in Gaza.
Well, this is definitely the first crack in the dam. Today it's 2,000. With more pressure, it will be 20,000, and with a bit more pressure, it will be 200,000. He has enough space. He has a big desert, and the world can help him build a whole refugee camp as he did. Look, in Jordan, there is, until this very day, there is a refugee camp from the Syrian refugees, which hosts like 1 million people. 1 million people live in Jordan, and of course the UNHCR is feeding them and taking care of their health and everything. Look, I'm not saying that living in a refugee camp in big tents as they are, it's a nice thing and a pleasant thing. Yet it is much better than to live in Gaza. So if people will be given the choice between remaining in Gaza or living in a refugee camp in Jordan or in Egypt, I have no doubt that they will all, or most vast majority of the people will decide to move to the refugee camp, hoping that from there they will get to somewhere else. However, having said that, already in December 2023, like a year and a few months ago, I published my opinion about what should happen with Gaza, with the population. Qatar is the country which is responsible for what happened in Gaza. Qatar should solve the problem. And the world should twist the hands of the Qataris in order to convince them to stand to their responsibility. They nurtured Hamas. They sponsored Hamas. They supported Hamas in the media, in the political echelons and everything. And actually Hamas was, to a large extent, made by Qatar. The Qatari airline company has, I think, some 270 airplanes. Average capacity, over 300 people. The Qatari airline company can evacuate all the Gazans from the El Arish airport in Egypt 50 kilometers from Gaza. It will take them 1 week, easily. With pressure, it can be done within 5 days. I calculated it. It means that, and where will they stay in Qatar? Don't forget, Qatar hosted the World Cup games 2.5 years ago in 2022. They have many dormitories, empty, waiting for the Gazans. They have hotels, very nice hotels, waiting for the Gazans. And if there will be some Gazans without any solution, they can build for them in no time. Buildings or temporary buildings, all kinds of things, airborne buildings. This is Qatar. Qatar should bear the consequences of what Qatar did. The problem is, there are two problems. First of all, in the Arab world, they never heard about responsibility. Whatever you do, you can do whatever you like. You will never be responsible for this. This is one thing. Second thing is that Qatar actually has bought so many politicians in the West, in Europe, in America, and in America on both sides of the aisle. Qatar bought academic institutions. Qatar bought media outlets and people in the media in order to make sure that when they comes, they reflect the Qatari standpoint. And therefore, I'm not so sure that the American political system can force anything on Qatar after Qatar oiled some politicians, or I think even many politicians. And this is the problem. Qatar should have been the responsible one, and Qatar should have solved the problem which Qatar created. And unfortunately, until this happens, people might take, like the King of Jordan, will take 2,000 here, 3,000 there, 5,000 there. The problem will not be solved. Qatar can solve the problem within a week.
Now, there is a Arab Cold War of sorts between Qatar and Saudi Arabia. And the extent to which Saudi Arabia gains from this redevelopment of Gaza, will that push Qatar further away from being a partner on finding any solution?
Look, Qatar is doing whatever it's doing, in Gaza, not because it's some kind of investment or some revenues which might come from this. No, in Qatar, it's ideology. They identify wholeheartedly with the Muslim Brotherhood ideas and with the Muslim Brotherhood organizations like Hamas, like Islamic Jihad in Gaza, and many other, or the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt. They were behind Morsi in the 1 year which he was the president of Egypt. They were totally against Sisi, who ousted Morsi. Qatar supports every Muslim Brotherhood organization in the world, even in the United States of America. Organizations like CAIR, Committee on American Islamic Relations, MSA, Muslim Student Association. This is the organization which is behind much of the anti-Semitism in American campuses, and Qatar is behind it financially. The world, unfortunately, plays according to the music which Qatar imposes on the world, thanks to the fact that Qatar has bought for many years already many people, politicians, decision makers, influencers. Qatar bought them all. And this is the problem, that it's very easy to buy people, especially if they need some big sum of money.
And how would you explain the role of Iran in what is right now happening in Gaza, the extent to which Hamas will try to meet President Trump's new deadline of a Saturday full release, and the extent to which Qatar can be held responsible? Where does Iran fit into all of this?
Well, don't forget that Iran was the country which sent all the weapons, munition, missiles, drones to Gaza through Egypt, of course. And Iran definitely was behind Hamas for a long time. The problem is that Hamas, when they started the war on October 7th, 2023, Iran was surprised because it was not planned by Iran. It was planned to be a big war, multi-front war with Hezbollah, with the militias in Syria on that time, in Iraq, in the Houthis in Yemen. Everybody should start the war together in order to topple Israel by what happened in the south, also in the north, in the Golan, in all the fronts together. The problem is that Hamas started the war by themselves, without permission, without letting the Iranians know about this. That's why the Iranians were caught in surprise. And actually, what Hamas did is actually they disobeyed the Iranian expectation to start the war altogether when Iran will give them the cue. Hamas actually destroyed the Iranian plan because now the whole world is talking about this, and the surprise is gone. They cannot now surprise anyone, let alone Israel. So the feelings vis-a-vis Hamas in Iran are not good. The Iranians are flabbergasted about what Hamas did, because Hamas actually destroyed the opportunity or the possibility to free Palestine, as the Iranians planned, for them to come together, not separately. Separately, Israel can deal with Hamas, then deal with Hezbollah, then deal with the Syrian, with the militias in Syria. Separately, Israel can survive if they are separate. And this is what Hamas caused, because Hamas, they were too hasty. According to Iran, they should have waited until everybody is ready, and Iran is with nuclear weapon in order to immune itself from Israel's retaliation. Okay, Hamas had their own different timetable. They wanted to prevent any advancement in the relations between Israel and Saudi Arabia, and this was actually what pushed them to start the war before the Iranian consent and before the Iranian cue. And all the rest is history. The Iranians will do nothing in order to save Hamas. They will say many things, they will announce, they will condemn, they will shout, they will scream, they will do everything. They do nothing. So far, they did nothing. What did they do? What did they do in order to save Gaza? Nothing. Well, they told the Houthis to do something, or to Hezbollah to start some kind of war against Israel. And this is the problem. They were not organized. They were not. They didn't coordinate the war. And from the Iranian point of view, Hamas can go to hell.
Now, it would be wonderful if Egypt read your plan and recommendations for the day after in Gaza. Maybe they have. But what do you expect to see from the Egyptian plan that's being discussed and presented to President Trump? Do you think that they will likewise make an offer such as Jordan? Do you think they will open up their borders? What can we expect to see with Egypt?
Look, I heard some Egyptians say that, well, if Israel wants to evacuate Gaza from all its people, Israel can bring them to the Negev. And that's what the Egypt. Why should we give them asylum? Well, the Egyptians deny that they also took part in the problem with Gaza by allowing the Bedouins in Sinai to smuggle weapons to Gaza. And there are pieces of information that even the son of Sisi was deeply involved in the smuggling because he got good money out of it. So the Egyptians, again, they don't stand to their responsibility. Again, what I said in the beginning, that in the Arab world, people try always to get rid of the responsibility. They don't feel that they should be responsible for what they do. And Egypt as well. Egypt is part of this culture. Now, about my plan to evacuate them to Qatar, of course, the El Arish airport is like 50 kilometers from Rafah, from the border between Gaza and Egypt. And believe me, David, if Moishe, if the Gazans know that Qatar is waiting for them, they will walk these 50 kilometers to El Arish airport in no time. Means it will take them 1 day of walk. That's all. If there are no buses or on other vehicles, they will walk because it will take them what? 10 hours. 10 hours walk is not something which cannot be done. They will walk to the airport in El Arish in order to get a ride to Qatar. So Egypt doesn't have to be worried. Nobody will stay in Egypt if the alternative is Qatar.
Dr. Mordechai Kedar, always a great pleasure to speak with you. Thank you so much for sharing all of this.
Wait. Let's have patience to wait until Shabbat at 12 o'clock to see what Israel is doing with the Trump backing to push Gaza to hell. I really don't know if the Israelis will stand for this support of President Trump. But who knows? Maybe this credible threat will be the changing point in the behavior of Hamas. And if it is, maybe they will release more than was planned. Maybe they will release them all, I don't know, in order to stay there, because otherwise they might be kicked out, if not get killed. It all is connected to how credible the American and the Israeli threat is. How serious Israel is viewed. And I don't know if you saw, already there's a recruitment of Miluim, of reservists, no leaves in the Southern Command. The Air Force is already flying, repairing and warming the engines. And the more credible the threat is, the more are the chances that Hamas will do what they are expected to do by the United States and by Israel. And this is what I can say as it is now. On Wednesday, the 12th of February. What will be on Saturday, I wish I knew.
That was Dr. Mordechai Kedar sharing his views on what is happening right now in Israel and the reactions across the Arab world. Thank you so much to all of you, all of the viewers and supporters for tuning into this briefing. I certainly hope it was informative and educational. We will be back with you tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. here in Israel. Until then, stay safe, stay strong. Take care, everyone.